they had dancing in the Pleiades. And Quetzal says, yes, they do, but as far as he knows, that dancing is like a normal thing that seems to be in just about every race they come across. It has to do with the rhythm and being interested in rhythm and moving to it and so forth, which that seems pretty normal. But he did comment something kind of unusual. He says that on a Pleiadian world, that the men don't dance. The women will dance, but the men don't dance. And here's why. This is kind of unusual. Might give you some insights into something here. He says that in certain cases, that many males are very incomplete in their feeling of being male, and they harbor some feminine tendencies within them, and that dancing brings those out. And if a person, by virtue of having a short rebirth, they call it, if a person comes back into life too fast, faster than they're supposed to, for whatever reason, that there's a tendency for this, where the spirit may be slightly confused about its sex. Apparently what it comes out to is that we have the ability to determine our sex from lifetime to lifetime, and that's something that we need to have programmed in ourselves when we pass away, when we die. That's something that's in our own head. But if it's not, if we die early out of accident, and we're not clear on whether or not we want to be male or female, when you have an accident, you return to birth much faster than you normally do. And in that instance, he says that the inside the spirit may not be exactly sure if it wants to be male or female. There may be some slight confusion in there, and if there is, dancing will bring that out and make the person even more confused. Now, it sounds like what they're talking about here is there could be some sort of explanation in all of this, how homosexuality actually manifests itself. It can be some sort of accident of when a person does not lead a fulfilled life, a long life, perhaps dies short, comes back too fast, and is confused themselves. Maybe that's where it comes from. Okay, we're up to the 113th contact now, and that happened on Sunday, August 6th, 1978. This contact was, again, for Billy's information. There was very little talk at all about the group. It was with Quetzal and Semjase together. Semjase is still attending most of the contacts here. One of the things they talked about, Billy had a question about the Catholic Church. He had been doing some work with his numbers and working on the prophecies of the future and so forth, and wanted to discuss with him if he was correct about the coming times of the future in relationship to the popes. And Quetzal says, yes, I'll run over that for you. He says, shortly there will be a new pope, that the pope that's in office right now will pass away, and it will be time to elect a new one. Now, we're in 1978 here. I'll try to keep the dates straight here so you can follow this. He says this new pope will be elected by 111 cardinals on Saturday, August 26th. His name is Luciani. He will be called Pope Johannes Paul I, Pope John Paul I. Okay? Now, his name will be introduced to these cardinals when they go to vote. In case you're not familiar, there is what's called the chairs of Rome. The Vatican is actually run by the chairs of Rome, or the cardinals. And I don't know exactly how many there are. There's well over 100. And they make the decision. They vote in on who's going to be pope. Okay? So what has happened here is they're voting in this new guy, Pope John Paul I. His name is Luciani, his real name. And they take, from the moment of time that it's introduced that this man may become pope, it only takes 33 minutes for them to deliberate and to decide that he should be the next pope, which apparently is rather quick for them. Well, oddly enough, even though it only took 33 minutes for him to be decided upon, he's going to be dead in 33 days, on September 28th. Here's why. Apparently, after they decide to put him in power, make him the pope, that they're very surprised by the way this man acts, and it causes a lot of horror, was the word that's used in there, with his behavior. First thing he did is he broke tradition by not wanting a fancy coronation when he became pope. All he wanted was a simple ceremony, and this really angered the cardinals. And for the weeks that followed, just a couple of weeks after that, he seemed to be offending a lot of the cardinals and causing lots of problems. And apparently the cardinals feel that they are the real power of the Catholic Church, and the Pope is just a figurehead. So already a plot was put into motion to actually kill this poor Pope, or it's going to be put in motion because we're talking in the future here, to kill this poor guy. So Pope John Paul I is already in trouble. They poison him on September 28th at 2307 hours. That's 11 o'clock in the evening, 11:07 in the evening. He's going to be poisoned with a very fast-acting poison that disappears quickly in the body, and it will appear as though he had a heart attack. Now, I remember back in '78 when that happened. The guy was only in office for about a month, and I thought, gee, that's too bad. The poor fellow died of a heart attack just after getting, this job. That as a religious man, I'm sure it must be the height of your career to become the Pope. So I remember feeling kind of sad for the fellow that he'd probably worked all of his life as a priest and whatever, working his way up, becoming a cardinal, whatever, and then suddenly he becomes Pope, and a month after he becomes Pope, he's dead. But according to the Plejadians, it was no accident. The cardinals actually poisoned him because they didn't want him any longer as the Pope. Well, one of the other problems was, too, this new Pope will also be too kind to the people. And they apparently don't like that. They like for the popes really to just kind of deal out the rules and laws of Catholicism and work very closely and kind with the cardinals themselves. Kind of sounds like Congress and the president, doesn't it? Well, apparently this Pope, that was another reason why they poisoned him, that they were afraid that he was going to become too friendly with the public, too lenient, and they would lose some of their control and some of their power. Billy questioned, well, whether or not they would actually get caught at this, because apparently they've done it several times in the past where the cardinals have actually poisoned or in other means gotten rid of popes. And Quetzal remarked, no, it's very hard to catch them. You must remember that the Vatican is a separate state in Italy, has its own police force, its own little government, its own post office, and the Italian government or no other government really has authority to investigate or do anything. So they're really it's very difficult at all to pursue any kind of investigation and catch them, so they can really kind of get away with it. And Billy thought this was kind of sad that this sort of thing was really happening. Billy's not much for religion, but at the same time he doesn't go along with murder at all. Now this Pope that's getting Pope John I, who's going to be poisoned, his successor begins the prophecies that Billy's talking about, because there's only going to be 3 more popes now, and he's the 3rd one. There'll be 2 more after him. His name is Pope John Paul II. And he'll be appointed Pope within a month after the death of Pope John Paul I, who dies of poison on September 28th. In October, Pope John Paul II comes into power. His real name is Karol, and I can't pronounce it. It's Wojtyla, Polish name, Wojtyla. Not very good with names. I don't know how to pronounce that. But he will be the 3rd. There are only 3 popes left before the big world change is going to come. He's the 264th Pope, and he will die in the near future. They know the date, but they don't want to give that date just at that point. The world will then be astonished when that Pope that comes along next will also be killed very shortly. Then that would be the second to the last Pope. He won't have a very long reign whatsoever. Then the last Pope will come into power, and he will be a Pope with the number value of 5. And he will bring Catholicism into the world arena of war and so forth, and reveal the Catholicism for what it really is. He will be the 266th and last Pope. That the prophecy says, and they say that Billy is correct, that will be the end of the Christian Church, or at least the Catholic Church, that the war will have broken out, and Italy will be overrun, and Catholicism is going to be stamped out, was kind of the phrase they used. That'll be the end of it. Billy